All right, excited for another episode of the Christian Coach Podcast. We got a great show lined up. I'm excited to introduce our guest, Coach Pete Wehry. Welcome. How are you, Coach?
I'm good. This is kind of weird because we do our own podcast, like shameless promotion, Weary Dads. And whenever my son introduced me, he always said, "It's my co-host," and I go, "Dad." That's all I do. So this is a big step for me to not be in that spot.
All right, different role for you, baby. Well, listen.
Yeah, I can handle it.
Thanks for taking the time. I'm excited for our listeners to get to know you a little bit as I've gotten to know you over the past year. So here's my first question, Coach. What does it mean to you to be a Christian coach?
And the funny thing is that, and I start this in my mind, there is a difference. So for me, a Christian coach submits himself to God and then invests in others eternally. There's a bigger picture than just a preparation for a season, games. You're really not even I would say even preparing kids for life. We talk about that, but for a Christian coach, you're investing in them eternally. Big difference for me.
Love it. Love that word you used, invest. And man, it is the bigger picture. It's so easy to get caught up in the scoreboard and chasing our own success. So appreciate that answer. Hey, let's do this. We're going to rewind, man. I'm going back to growing up in Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
Growing up where?
I was born in Massachusetts, lived there till I was 8. Then, Jim, I jumped over to Connecticut.
All right. I rushed it a little bit.
Well, all good, though.
Let's do this. What was a typical day like in the life of Pete Wehry when he was 8 years old, 9 years old, growing up?
There was major pressures of taking the trash out.
Yeah.
So this is the truth. During the summer, I got up in the morning. I don't remember anything about getting up. I would go out and play my brother and his friend in baseball. They were all 3 years older than me. We'd play a game in the morning. When your brother's 3 years older than you, he should win. And he's playing his friend. It's 2-on-1. Ghost runners, the whole thing.
Oh, ghost runners. You taking it back.
I would lose. I'd go inside crying, drink a Coke, go back out in the afternoon, and we'd play. I'd lose, I'd cry, drink a Coke, and then in the evening, we'd go out and we'd play, and I'd lose, and I'd cry and drink a Coke. I think I probably beat him once a week, and, he was older, but I was probably a little bit more skilled. It was me against the world. And I think
if people could see my face right now, I am smiling so big because I'm loving the drink a Coke. That's like your alcohol at age 8, man.
No question.
Problem.
It was I just wanted to win so bad.
I love it. I love it probably at that age, that is where now God put on your heart this maybe this love and passion for sports, athletics. So tell us a little bit about that journey where you got into athletics, you got into sports.
So fast forward, 7, 8 years, I'm 15, 16. My typical days, I got up in the morning. This is going to sound like the old man story, but I would walk about 1.5 miles. I worked at a tennis courts. They were green clay, Hartrue. I would sweep those, water them, and then I was the assistant tennis pro, which meant I answered the phone. Basically, long story short is that's what I did: athletics, golf. Played little. At that point, it was Babe Ruth, whatever, baseball, and it was all about just sports. And that's when the redemption occurred. That's when I came to Christ. And I tell people all the time, when that occurred, then I had to make this incredible. One of the things I'm sure you're going to ask is my faith story. So this is where I come to Christ. That's a 6-month process, hearing the gospel, thinking it's crazy. Then I come to Christ, and like I said, I'm about 15, and all I know is 2 things: athletics, and I like girls. I didn't think I could start a women's ministry, so that's how I got involved in athletics. That's the honest to goodness truth.
Well, let me ask you this: at age 15 now, beginning your faith journey, and kind of maybe even looking back over that faith journey, what's some major spiritual lessons that you've learned over your life that maybe even kind of correlate with the lessons athletics teach us and
Well,
similarities?
yeah, and I think the athletics can teach this. Like, there are things that are out of your control.
Mm,
The thing I've learned the most is that God is sovereign, that He reigns, that He has a plan and a purpose, and it's not always what we think it should be. And
mm,
as a coach, and I believe this firmly, coaches struggle with being control freaks,
yeah.
making sure we know exactly what our guys are running, what they're doing, so on and so forth. And then there's just things that are out of your control, and you just have to do your best. And in life, I just think God's got a plan that's bigger and better than ours. We sometimes try to mold it and put it in a funnel, trying to whittle it down to where we want it to go. And God is like, no, He uses broken cisterns, and He wants things to be done in a way that we don't get any glory, but we cannot but give Him glory for how He does it and weaves. So those are the biggest things I probably learned.
Yeah, I love it. I love it how you use even the phrase broken cistern. That's how God uses us when we finally totally surrender and commit. And I've learned that in my life, that his plans, his goals are way bigger than ours. And you're right, as coaches, our personality is to have that practice plan, that game plan. But a good coach is able to make adjustments at halftime, and ultimately spiritually, it's letting God make those adjustments in our life and being open for that. So thank you for sharing that. Again, with Pete Wehry, he's currently serving with Nations of Coaches. We're going to get into that a little bit, but he is a former high school and college basketball coach. And I know that mentorship, leadership is important to you. And man, you've been a mentor in my life this past year. But looking back, who were some mentors and role models that you had in your life? And then to piggyback that, maybe the big lesson that one or two of them have taught you.
So I don't know why, but I was always an observer. I'm a people watcher. I remember things. I remember details that don't matter to other people. So I just watched all the time. And so in doing that, there were probably a number of people that I wouldn't say directly invested in me, but I watched how they handled things. But two people that I do think invested in me was my stepdad, who's, I call him Dad. He's
Mm-hmm.
he's the one that was very, very influential about, hey, this is how you do things. And the biggest thing I learned from him is you go to work, you do work, you don't whine and complain. That doesn't get anything done. And the second one was when I was in college. I had the privilege of being, and people, listeners out there are going to go, what is that? But the head usher, and that was over a crew of about 100 guys. And it was a big deal at the school that I went to. It was an opportunity to learn. I didn't see it as an opportunity to serve. I thought it was an opportunity of leadership, but it really was learning to serve. And
Mm.
there was a man named Craig Olson that I just watched. His ability to influence and inspire people and even sit on them a little bit, but do it in such a way that made people not feel intimidated or um, lower than other people.
Mm.
Just he had a way of, and that was something that not only I learned, I already felt like I had that potential. I could exhort and encourage. But how he did it really was an example. And it's really interesting as I get older, I've had a lot of mentorship from afar
Mm.
by reading. I love Michael Hyatt's books. Michael Hyatt does leadership, and he's got a company called, a store, Full Focus, but it's leadership. And there are a number of people that Tony Dungy, reading a lot of his books has helped me. So those are people that have invested in me, and then those from afar.
What's your stepdad's name?
Ken.
Can. Beautiful. I love how you started with him, and just go to work, man. Keep it practical. Go to work, show up, do the work. No shortcuts to success. I want to land on, you talked a little bit. I read Tony Dungy's book. I believe it was Mentor Leadership. But before that, you threw in a pretty significant term as you were leaning towards leadership, but you threw out the word serve. And I love that word serve. And you talked about, learning how to serve, maybe in that college setting as the head usher. But as you are involved in your role as now a mentor to several coaches, what lessons do you maybe share or give with this idea about serving in leadership? Because it's almost like a paradox. It's opposite. And
Yeah.
this is the ultimate leadership, but I believe is servant leadership.
Well, the scriptures are full of paradoxes.
Yes.
The poor shall be rich. That just doesn't make sense. The lowly will be risen to the height. And so there's this whole leadership thing today where, and a lot of self-promotion, get your name out there, a lot of, kids live on huddle and clips and getting themselves, and instead of just doing the next thing to support and serve, well, people, that's attractive. And the reason it's attractive is because that's what Jesus did. Like, he was the ultimate leader, and it wasn't about him. It was about others. And, our responsibility is pretty careful, but simple. Love God, love others.
Yeah.
And when you love other people, and I think coaches understand that, but boy, we have a fear sometimes that we're losing control again.
Yeah.
No, we never had control.
Love God, love others, man. We complicate it sometimes, don't we?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I know I do. Man, the verse in, I believe it's Philippians, in humility, consider others better than yourself.
Yeah, that's chapter 2, verse 4. Look not every man on his own things, but also on the things of others. That's the old KJV, baby.
Yeah, there you go. Well, listen, we're talking about mentorship. We're talking about leadership. We have a lot of coaches that listen to the podcast. And my question would be this. What advice would you give, let's say, the 20-year-old coach? He's just getting started. He's maybe a GA, maybe still a manager, maybe just getting his feet wet into this field. The 40-year-old coach who's maybe halftime a little bit, maybe he's settled into a position. And then let's fast forward to the 60-year-old coach, and he's winding it down a little bit. So what advice would you give to maybe that 20-year-old, that 40-year-old, and then that 60-year-old?
20-year-old, I would encourage them to learn to be quiet, swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. If I was really talking to a 21-year-old coach, I'd say, listen, man, you got your degree and you're going to coach. This is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. If I was doing it all over again, I'd look at my wife and say, I'm going to get a job that allows me to go to spend every afternoon at different practices all over the state or country. Yeah. Go to everyone, different sports. And I would have a notebook. I like this drill. I like how he handled this. I like this scenario. I might not write this down, but I'll never do that.
Yeah.
Like I think you got a degree, but that doesn't mean, and I don't care if you work with one program as a manager or a GA or whatever, even if you're 25, I would say take a year. I know a guy that had to take a year because of circumstances, said it was unbelievable. The 40-year-old, I would say, don't lose priorities of things that really matter, because that's in the midst of season of where you're really working. Okay, take care of your health and build routines into your life that will help you stay balanced with your family, your walk with God, and your opportunity. The 6-year-old, and I'll say this as kindly as I can, if you're not mentoring somebody, you're being selfish.
Wow.
It's not about you. Like, it's just and this is the greatest season of my life. I was thinking about this. I work with 6 to 8 young men on Sunday nights. I go to a staff of football coaches on Sunday nights. I'm mentoring some high-level leaders in basketball. It's why I wake up in the morning.
Mm.
They need somebody to bounce things off of or to hear truth. And it's not my truth, it's God's truth.
Man, that's awesome. That's leading me right into this next question I have for you. The idea about the quote that comes to my mind is purpose is an incredible alarm clock. And so I think about you, what is Coach Wehry's purpose now? What gets you up in the morning? And you alluded to some of it, but what comes to your mind when that alarm comes off and goes off and you hit it and you're ready to just go attack the day? What is Pete Wehry's purpose?
I get it from my mission statement. So for years, I talked about companies and so forth, and I was teaching evangelism and discipleship at a Bible college. And I said, you know what? I ought to have a personal mission statement. So I will mentor and disciple my wife, my family. It used to be my two boys, but we added a daughter-in-law, and now I have two grandsons. So I will mentor and disciple my wife, my two sons, and others that God brings into my life. That's everything else is sometimes necessary stuff to get done. But what's really important is investing in my wife, my family, and others for the kingdom. That's why it's easy for me to get up in the morning. Nothing else really matters.
Yeah. Beautiful. You are spitting out gold, my friend. Gold. I'm just telling you, taking notes. I love it.
My prayers is platinum.
Yeah.
By the time we're done.
But there's a reason why people are attracted to you, and I see it. And you have this sense of humility, but also confidence. And you talked about those paradoxes. It's an upside down kingdom where God calls us for, different purposes, and your purpose is to impact others and to impact coaches. So that's leading me into, I'm excited for our listeners to know a little more about what it is you do with Nations of Coaches, what Nations of Coaches is all about, what your role is, and maybe the mission and vision of the ministry.
Well, I'm going to go here first. So this is really interesting. We talked about the sovereignty of God. I am in the late 90s, I am coaching at a large public school in Florida, Ocala Vanguard. I have an opportunity to get a job. It looks like I'm going to get it. Something occurs, which is a godsend, that somebody else gets the job. It's actually for a women's basketball job. A woman comes in to get the job at the end. She's willing to teach exceptional student education. They have that need. The AD looks at me and wants to hire me, but he says, I can't. The truth is she gets the job. And because she gets the job, she's a great fit for that job. I end up going to Indiana. With that said, one of my goals was, and a dream was to maybe coach college. Because of that, I end up being an assistant coach in college as a dean of students at a Bible college, and then ended up being the head coach. Through that, one of the things you get is the privilege of going to the Final Four. So in 2008, I go to my first Final Four. And for listeners out there, that's Kansas. Kansas versus Memphis. Must be Memphis because he wasn't at Kentucky. At Calipari was. All right. So great game, but in going, it's the world's biggest convention for basketball coaches. So really enjoying that. 2009, I come up, and I don't mind the listeners laughing because there's this booth and there's a little guy about 5'6" or 7, and his name is Jack Lovelace, and he's from Alabama. And the fact is, folks,
pretty good accent, sir. Pretty good accent.
Yeah, he's our boss. So I meet Jack, and he tells me this ministry where we go in and we place what we call a character coach, which invests in college basketball programs. And at that point, I'm thinking athletes, but now we know that the most influential person in most of these young men's lives, and 78% of them come from single or non-parent homes. Okay? Catch that stat, folks. 78% single or non-parent homes. The most influential male in their life is their coach.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to coach the coaches. We're going to invest in coaches. So in 2009 and 2012, I feel like I'm supposed to do this. I tell my team we have the best year that I've ever had as a coach. I mean, we're really good, but God has called me from 2013 till now. For the last 9 years, I've been working with Nations of Coaches, and I've had numerous positions because the truth was we were embryonic. I mean, we were not even close to being toddlers. The truth is we may be toddlers now. Like as much as 10 years later, there's been so much that is going, and Jim's part of this team, folks. So you gotta understand it. Like it's happened.
Yeah.
And when I joined, we had 3 men and 2 ladies. The 2 ladies were part time. There are 3 men. Tommy Kyle, the guy I mentioned, Jack Lovelace, and Dale Clayton. Dale coached at Carson Newman, helped start the Black Coach Association. Strong man of God. I'm the 4th guy. I'm the first regional director, and it's actually of Florida. It snowballs from there, folks. Now we have close to 25 staff members. God is doing a great work, and my role is I'm the national director, which I don't know if you folks hear that, but that's really an impressive title. But really what it means is I go wherever we don't have regional directors. So on Monday, I'll be flying to New England, meeting with a school in Massachusetts. We're adding a character coach, and also I'll be meeting 3 or 4 coaches to invest in them. That's my role. That's what I do. Jim is now over Florida, and that's what I was first called to do when I moved here, but there were some other roles in between. And so we're excited about having Jim on the team, and we're striving to invest in coaches and athletes for eternity.
Big impact in my life, Coach. And I know when I was going through just the same thoughts and just that desire to coach the coaches, as you said it, to share the lessons that we are. And it's more now, instead of a linear impact, it's exponential impact. And I didn't even
it's big.
those
That's
terms
exactly
meant
right.
a couple years ago, but that's what we get to do. That's how we get to serve. It's an amazing ministry. So thank you for the role that you played. Hey, wanted to pivot here a little bit because you talked about being at a couple different places, coaching in high school at Ocala Vanguard up in Central Florida. You went to Christian College up in Wisconsin, I believe, and then came back down to Florida. So as you think about transition, moving, maybe even different careers, I think this would be great for our listeners who some are coaches, they're going through transition, maybe within the program. I think about in my life, moving up from JV to varsity, or maybe taking another position at a different school, or maybe moving, across state to another program. So as you think about transition, what are some lessons you learned or even observed in transitioning, and how do you transition well? I think this is an important concept.
For me, it's pretty easy. I always would tell whoever, leave it better than you got it, and how you leave is more important than how you got there.
Wow,
everybody's excited in a new job.
Yeah.
But man, I want the staff, the people to know that I am not just careful. I use this term ditching. Like leaving it, how I leave is going to be more impactful than how I arrived. And the truth is, I think in most cases, this is my opinion. Somebody could get on this podcast and say, I don't agree. But I think I did leave things better than I had them, and I left well. And it's part of the thing, I talk about this, where we have to raise our own support. And I have so many former athletes, parents of athletes that are our supporters. Some in like large amounts, some not as large, but they're like, Coach, I just want to, because I think they knew I cared. And I think it's imperative that when you leave bridges, not walls.
That's good. That's good. I know I needed to hear that. I need to be reminded of that. I'm sure we have a lot of coaches that are either going through a transition right now, or they will face that transition.
Yep, someday will happen.
Love your advice. Love your thought on that. Let's lean into this. I'm going to ask you this, and then we're going to finish out with a little fun exercise here as our time is winding up.
Fun.
Hey, curb your enthusiasm, sir.
Yeah.
Curb it. Okay.
Wow.
But again, with Pete Wehry, National Director, Nations of Coaches, former high school coach, former college coach, a great mentor to me and so many others. Appreciate you, Coach, taking the time to do this. But here's what I want to ask you, man. What is one of your proudest moments on the court, but then off the court? And I say moment, I'm sure there may be one or two, but if you can just think of, proudest moment on the court and then off the court.
So before you have any mountaintop experience, usually there's got to be some valleys. And so my second to last year at Northland, we were pretty talented, but we were way young. And so we lost like 8 in a row, 5 by less than 5 points. And that was a very difficult time. And then the next year, God blessed me with a couple of more players that are really, really good. And they were mature and they helped the other guys mature. And for any coach out there that thinks it's you do these things, you need to smile. You got to have the right people and the right spirit and stuff. So that year we were regional champs and we went to the national tournament. And fact is, I was regional coach of the year and national coach of the year, which still blows me away because the year before I lost 8 games in a row. And I went, man, I'm the same idiot I was last year. So that was a great moment. But the biggest moments are now. Are now when a young man calls me with either incredible blessing. I'll tell you one, if I can.
Yeah, please.
I have 3 kids in one family that I love dearly. They had come to our ministry. The oldest brother was a really good soccer player. He never sat still. I actually called him Static. That was his nickname. His sister was a sweet girl, godly girl. She married the first kid I ever coached, who ended up being a missionary in Bangladesh and Indonesia. The younger brother was not a good athlete. He played soccer for us. He did everything he could, but he was not a great athlete. But he was a great kid. And his family went through a really, really difficult time, and the parents divorced. And there was so much to that story. And I walked up to the kid one time when he was in the locker room, not athletic locker room, but out with books. And I said to him, hey, man, how you doing? He said, I'm fine. And I said, fine's a paper cut. How you really doing? And he turned around and he put his head on my shoulder and he sobbed. I don't know if I can make it any more dramatic. I mean, it was uncontrollable. He had stuff all over my shirt. I was like, oh my goodness, like he is sobbing. And so he supports me monthly now and not a little bit. And he wrote me an email and he said, Coach, don't stop asking kids how they're doing after they say they're fine.
Wow.
Keep asking them if fine's a paper cut. And then, another one, I coached a kid in the at Vanguard in baseball, never knew this. And he later on shared with me that he made a profession because he had watched me for a year and that I had the joy of Christ. I was like, man, I don't know what, like and so those are just, that's off the court. That's gold.
Yeah, that's powerful right there, man, because I know so many times I walked through the hallways, through chapel, through the cafeteria, and I was flying. And I'm leaning in towards John Maxwell's advice, walk slowly through the crowd. And what you said right there is God put it on your heart to start walking a little slower. And then when someone shoots back with that fine, we know there's more to it. And I know 20-year-old Jim, 20-year-old Pete probably just, I'm speaking for you, we probably just ran right past that, and now we're able to kind of slow down and really, really invest in our kids. So, man, powerful words right there. Hey, we're getting ready to close up shop here a little bit. I'm going to have a word of prayer in a second, but here's what I like to do when I end. I call it our rapid fire.
Hey, before you do that, do you notice this? I just caught it. I have a headset on. Look at my head.
Oh, hey, it fits in there.
Don't tell anybody.
Man.
Don't tell anybody.
Great. Squirrel.
Oh, shoot,
Squirrel.
Heard.
Squirrel.
All right, I'm ready. Give me the.
All right, here it is. Rapid fire. I'm getting the alarm clock. I'm getting the stopwatch out. You got a minute. You got to answer 10 of these in a minute. So we're going to go fast. You have to think of the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready? This
could be trouble.
Here we go, man. I hope you're ready. Starting the clock. And 3, 2, 1, go. Favorite junk food?
All.
What?
All junk food.
Not
good. Okay. Staying away from it.
Your go-to restaurant?
Someplace with steak.
Okay. Favorite sport to watch?
United States men's national soccer.
Wow. Favorite sport to play? Come on, you still play something.
Yeah, the truth is at this age, golf.
All right. Truck or car?
Oh, truck if I could. Truck. or SUV, something I can run over a tree with.
All right. Book or a movie?
Man, 50-50.
Okay.
50-50. I
All
love
right, I
both.
got you. Cabin in the woods or
Oh,
beach house?
cabin in the woods. I
Nice.
don't even know what the other one. You give me a cabin in the woods near a lake with a cup of
All right, here we
coffee.
go. Hurry up. We got three more. Favorite Bible character.
Ah, man. Peter.
Okay. Favorite Bible verse.
2 Timothy 2:1-2.
Nice. And last but not least, we got 5 seconds. One word to describe you.
Dumb. Out of control. Out of control. It's not one word, one phrase.
You are not dumb, my friend. I'm going to give the word to describe you, man. You're a servant.
Oh,
So I
maybe.
appreciate you. I appreciate the impact. Hey, as we end, give me something specific. How can I pray for you? And I want to close this up in a word of prayer. And I thank you for sharing, man. I've enjoyed this. I hope that, and I know our listeners will, but I hope you enjoyed spending time with us as well on the Christian Coach podcast. But Pete Wehry, how can I pray for you, man?
Yeah, this is an easy one because one of the things you talked about maybe asking was my hero, and this is going to probably surprise everybody. My hero is probably right now my wife. Right now, she's taking care of my parents. My mom and dad are 89 and 88. They are about ready to go into assisted living. My dad broke his arm. He's got 101 doctor appointments. She's juggling all that, striving to serve nations and coaches, striving to be a wife. So my hero and someone that needs support and prayer is my wife right now.
And I know Lisa, she is a hero.
Oh, yeah.
You are blessed. She is the better half.
Not a question.
Well, let's do this. Let's close in prayer, huh? God, thanks for an incredible conversation. Thank you for Pete, his testimony, his impact. Thank you for his mentorship on so many people, myself included. I thank you for the incredible ministry of Nations of Coaches. Thank you for this time that we can connect. I pray for specifically now, as he mentioned, just his family, what he's going through. Thank you for his wife, Lisa, and her testimony and just her impact in their marriage. I pray for his mom and dad, Lord, as I know aging parents is, man, that's a tough ride. And we just lift them up to you. Pray for all the details with the assisted living and just the finances that go into that. We put that in your hands. We know you're a big God and you want to meet our needs, and we pray that they will be according to your will. Again, thank you for this time that we can meet and connect, and thank you for the power of serving you, the impact we can have on coaches, on athletes, and pray that we'll do that to our best ability. We ask this all in your name. Amen.
Amen.